Hi, this is BiteWise, and I'm here to cover the science behind food and nutrition. Today, we are exploring the history, flaws, and impacts of body mass index, also known as BMI. If you are chronically online like me, then you've probably seen so many posts about the Olympics. You probably have also heard of Ilona Maher, who is an American rugby player. She recently won bronze for rugby sevens in the Olympics, the first medal for the United States in that sport discipline. With that came worldwide attention. I adore her for her advocacy for body positivity and just overall positivity and wittiness. Unfortunately, some people had made snarky comments on her physical appearance. Most notably, someone said that her BMI is 30 and she is overweight. How can someone make such a comment to an Olympic medalist? Elona defended herself by exposing the flaws of BMI.
Hi, thank you for this comment. I think you were trying to roast me, but this is actually a fact. I do have a BMI of 30. Well, 29.3 to be more exact. I've been considered overweight my whole life. In middle school, elementary school, high school, I was always considered overweight. I remember vividly one time in high school, I did turn in the physical to the office, and right at the bottom of the page, it said overweight. And I was so embarrassed to turn that in and to have that written there. So my whole life I've been this way. I chatted with my dietitian because I go off of, facts and not just what pops up here, like you do. And we talked about BMI, and we talked about how it really isn't helpful for athletes. BMI doesn't tell you much. It just tells you what your height and weight and what that equals. I've said it before, I'm 5'10", 200 pounds. And I have about, and this is an estimate, but about 170 pounds of lean mass on me. Do that math in your head, you probably can't. That's pretty crazy, right? And that BMI doesn't really tell you what I can do. It doesn't tell you what I do on the field, how fit I am. It's just a couple numbers put together. It doesn't tell you how much muscle I have or anything like that. So, yeah, I do have a BMI of 30. I am considered overweight. But alas, I'm going to the Olympics and you're not.
Honestly, I love her for her response, but it brings up the question whether or not BMI is really the best tool to measure health. BMI is the ratio of height to body weight. If you follow the metric system, the formula for BMI is weight in kilograms over height in meters square. And if you are in the United States and use the imperial system, the formula is weight in pounds over height in inches times 703. This is a simple calculation that uses a person's height and weight to designate a classification. The further you are from the normal weight category, the higher your risk of developing health problems. BMI dates back to 1832 when Adolphe Quetelet, a Belgian statistician and mathematician, collected data on men's heights and weights at various ages. He hoped to discover the socially ideal man, or in French, le homme moyen, which means the average man, using heights and weights. Fast forward to 1972, physiologist Ansel Keys built upon the work of Adolphe Quetelet and coined the modern term body mass index. Ansel analyzed around 7,400 healthy men and men only, excluding women and minority groups. He successfully established the relationship between BMI and mortality, but he also acknowledged that BMI alone does not capture all the nuances of an individual's health status alongside other limitations to BMI, but he used it because of its ease. So, BMI was originally established in the 19th century by a statistician and rebranded in the 20th century by a physiologist for capitalist and research benefits. Neither of these individuals were medical professionals, yet BMI is widely used in research medical settings, and even home settings. This brings us to the next topic of discussion, which is the flaws of BMI. Firstly, BMI does not indicate the level of body fat. It's common for older individuals to have sarcopenia, obesity, which is an aging-associated increase of adiposity and body fat and decrease of muscle mass and function, meaning that they have low muscle but high fat. Yet, they can be categorized as normal despite having a recognized medical condition. Athletes and bodybuilders experience the same problem but in the other direction. They usually have high muscle and low fat, yet BMI cannot indicate such. I'm going to use Ilona Maher's height and weight for this example. According to her Wikipedia page, she is 5 feet 10 inches tall and weigh 200 pounds. And if you put all of these values into the formula, you'll get the BMI value of 28.7, putting Elona in the overweight category, even though she is probably 90% made up of muscles. So, BMI cannot differentiate between a rugby player and a John Doe or Jane Doe of similar height and weight but carry substantially more fat. Secondly, there's not enough research on BMI in different ethnicity groups. According to the UK National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, BMI, besides not being able to distinguish between fat mass and lean or muscle mass, does not reflect body fat distribution or differences in body fat associated with different body proportions in different ethnic groups. Asians have a higher risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and mortality at a lower BMI range. The opposite is true for Black people. They tend to have more lean body mass at higher BMIs. This means that BMI tends to overestimate Black people as being overweight when in actuality, their BMI is high because of muscle mass and not increased body fat associated with obesity. So BMI disproportionately burden these racial groups and should be used with caution. Thirdly, BMI can be misleading for children and adolescents. Children under 20 should be using the WHO growth charts, whose body fat distribution and muscle mass change at different rates depending on the child's age and sex, and whether or not they are going through puberty. Fourthly, it is not applicable to pregnant people as their weight gain is not related to fat accumulation. And the last flaw I want to touch on is that BMI is not applicable to people with missing body parts because it does not account for the proportional loss of weight due to missing limbs. It might even misclassify these individuals as underweight or healthy when they might have a different body composition. Hence, these people should use the amputee BMI calculator developed by Limb Power, which takes into account one's height, weight, and specified limb loss. All of these flaws persist because BMI is incredibly easy to use. All you need is a tape measure to measure height and a scale to measure weight. Within a few minutes, you can find out whether you are underweight, normal, overweight, or obese. I think this is a great time to talk about the insensitive name categories and what their consequences are. Labels like overweight and obese, while clinically correct, can contribute to our social stigma of weight. People who are classified as overweight or obese might experience body image issues and even eating disorders. This is even worse for kids, considering they are in critical stages of developing their self-identity and body image. Being labeled overweight and obese might lead them to attribute their self-worth to numbers on a scale. There's also an ongoing discourse about how fatness is not an indicator of health, but rather fitness instead. A meta-analysis showed that people with normal weight but unfit will have a higher mortality rate than people with normal weights but fit. This is the same for when you compare people who are overweight but unfit to people who are overweight but fit, as well as people who are obese but unfit to people who are obese but fit. So, when assessing fatness, healthcare professionals should also include levels of fitness. This further validates the belief that there can be health at every size, and I completely agree with that. So, what do we do if we don't want to use BMI? Currently, there are no anthropometric measurement for central adiposity that satisfies the criteria of being accurate, precise, accessible, and widely acceptable. So, BMI can be used but should not be used as a single focus for body composition. It should be used in tandem with other measurements such as waist to height ratio and body fat percentage. You can also look at biological markers such as cholesterol levels, blood pressure, and insulin resistance, which are far more accurate indicators of poor health than BMI. If you want to be absolutely accurate, then the gold standard is DEXA, short for dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. DEXA can differentiate between lean tissue, fat, and bone with segmented analysis of arms, legs, trunk, and total body for a comprehensive analysis of fat and muscle distribution throughout the body. This is commonly used for athletes. So, when you have your health checkup, please ask your healthcare professionals to use other measurements instead of BMI. In conclusion, BMI was never intended to be the ultimate measure of health. Its flaws are a reminder that we need a more nuanced approach. The key takeaway is that health isn't just a number on a scale. I hope that everyone enjoyed the Olympics as much as I am. I will be tuning in for the Paralympics happening in a week or two. That's all for today's episode of BiteWise. I'll see you in the next episode where we'll uncover more food and nutrition discoveries. Until then, keep cautioning, keep moving, and know that your health journey is uniquely yours and should not be defined by a number. Goodbye!